What's up, all my friends? Video games and more here, and I am live again. So we are very close to Washington D.C. now, and we just stopped at the Space Annex, the Space Center, and now we're on the bus. We're on our way to the mall. We're gonna have dinner at the food court, and
turn off your music and take out your headphones. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on this evening, and I want to talk about the Pentagon Memorial.
you'll be able to hear this. Listen.
We are leaving now to go to the Pentagon Memorial, which is on the physical grounds of the Pentagon. To get there, we're going to be walking through a really long pedestrian tunnel. There will be people walking in the opposite direction from us that have just worked hard all day long. Perhaps there'll be military officers, so we want to be respectful. It's fun to be somewhere where you can make an echo, but this isn't the place you want to do it. So we're heading to the Pentagon Memorial first, and after we've spent an appropriate amount of time there, we'll walk to the Pentagon Mall, which is a vertical building, so it's not unlike your Easton maybe mall,
Or your Tuttle.
but it's straight, it's up and down instead of spread out. The food court is in the lower level, and you'll be given $15 to purchase the food that you choose. Remember when you're done that you can't, well, I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to go straight on the subway from there. When you're done, we'll meet up at the appropriate spot and head over to the subway where we'll be moving into the city of Washington. Pentagon is actually in the state of Virginia. The Pentagon is a building that has 5 sides, and that represents the 5 branches of the military. Is there anybody on the bus that can name all 5 branches?
Legislative.
These are branches. Number 1 clue would be the Army. Number 2 would be the Navy. Air Force. Marines. And the last, oh, you guys are good, the Coast Guard. During the 9/11 terrorist attack is the side that is the Navy side.
We're getting in
So
some traffic
we'll talk
here.
a little bit about that, what occurred on 9/11 in Washington. You know that it was the plan of the terrorists to crash into the Capitol building and to crash into the Pentagon, as well as the Twin Towers. The plane that was going to crash into the Capitol flew over into Cleveland airspace and turned around, and the passengers on the plane on 9/11 were able to overtake the terrorist and cause the plane to crash in a field in Pennsylvania, not too far from where we were this afternoon. So that plane did not reach the Capitol, far from where we were this afternoon. So that plane did not reach the Capitol building.
I can't right now.
The plane that was aiming for the
They're
Pentagon hit
talking.
its target. So the memorial that we're going to is to honor the lives that were lost. So anybody who can tell me the difference between a memorial and a monument? I see both this week, and sometimes we mix those words up. Do you know what the difference is? Okay, that's good.
A memorial is a place, a monument things.
Close. A memorial, you're hoping to remember a person or a group of people. A monument is more directed to the ideals that that person stood for. So the Washington Monument is not a memorial to George Washington, it's a monument to his ideals. Most of the other ones that we'll see this week are memorials. They're honoring lives lost in some manner in our country. Okay, even if they were statues of men that were former presidents.
Thank you so much.
So, a 9/11.
Video games and more. Okay.
on September 11th in 2001, I was teaching 4th grade. Students were in gym. And the principal, back then, we had a PA system, probably maybe an antique, that the principal came on because the first thing that happened is one plane hit #1 World Trade Center. One plane hit one tower. And our very first
Could you move your
thought,
head over,
both
Stephanie?
at my school and
Stephanie,
in
could you
America,
move your head
was
over?
that a very tragic plane crash had occurred.
Okay,
I
never
don't
mind.
think anybody really thought about terrorism.
It's probably never mind.
Until the second tower was hit. That perhaps this was an intentional, this was not a coincidence. And so it was a really scary time because I was a mom and a wife, and suddenly we became aware that our country was under attack. And so my principal put out the word that we were not to tell our children that this had occurred. So my kids are in gym, they come back from gym, and the code that my principal came up with was to tell the students, if their parents came to pick them up, because that was starting to happen, that they had a dentist appointment. So my first little girl came, she's sitting in class, and the word came up from the office that her mom was there to get her. She had a dentist appointment, and she was shocked. Her name was Hillary. I remember that. As the day went on, 11 of my kids, their parents came to pick them up because they were afraid our country was under attack. I sent my husband to go pick up our 2 kids, but I stayed put in my classroom because that's what I was supposed to do. My 11 students that went home, by the 11th kid, they were afraid there was some disease going through our class that was causing teeth problems. So the kids went, and everybody eventually went home that evening, and we just kind of hunkered down in fear and worry. And our president, President Bush, really asked that America the next day get up and get back to work. I mean, other than the airports, which were shut down, and the ports of entry, the country was expected to get up and get back to work the very next day.
I'd like to see.
Even though we knew that we
That
had
is what I like
been
to see.
suffering from a horrible, hideous act. The Pentagon itself, the building, is built to look like a fort. When you see it, you'll kind of get a sense of that. If you were to fly over it, perhaps it's easier to see. It has 17 miles of hallways. It has 133 stairwells. And interestingly enough, it has 2 times as many bathrooms as it needs. Because when it was built in 1939, in the state of Virginia, where it sits, there were segregation laws, which did not allow African Americans to use the same restrooms as white people. And so when the Pentagon was built, side by side are separate bathrooms, which of course that's not the way it is today. But there's 2 times as many bathrooms in the Pentagon as there needs to be. So in 2001, this Boeing 757, it was going 345 miles an hour, and it was